In the name of God, Creator, Redeemer, and Sustainer. Please be seated. It is finished. There were moments last night at our Maundy Thursday service when I realized yet again the reality that last night and the next 2 days are the reasons we are here today, tonight, in this place, and in this time. We cannot go forward. We cannot be who we are as believers without being here, without remembering, without taking the time to be present to all that was and to all that is. We cannot be here without that meal and the words spoken there. We cannot be here without the foot washing to remind us of what we are about, though John is the only one who speaks of it. We cannot be here without the agony in the garden. We stripped the altar to remind ourselves there was no altar. The meal of remembrance was a meal meant to remind them of a night long ago in their past, a night when people made unleavened bread for a journey that was an exodus, a walk to freedom in the promised land. Today is a pivotal moment when we move from what was to pass through a time of darkness before we find ourselves moving into light again. And we are asked to stay in this moment, in the past and in the present moment before we move to what comes next. And we carry into this moment all of the burdens of these past 2 years. It has been 2 years since we have shared this moment together here in person. And we pause to remember the most recent as well as past tragedies of violence and killing that have happened on our streets, in our schools, in our workplaces, in homes, on subways. We carry with us the devastating war in Ukraine and the unknown future for them and for us and the rest of the world as this war's ripple effect travels across the globe. In a few short moments, when the cross is carried in and set in place, we will again be together at the foot of the cross, looking up. Standing at the foot of the cross. How did we get here? Was it only a few days ago that we followed him into the city with people shouting, throwing palms on the ground in front of him, shouting, Hosanna? It was exciting. We were caught up in the crowd. Did any of us hear the grumbles, the discontent in the background? He wept over the city. Did we know what that meant? Did we understand what his tears were for? He told us what was going to happen. He told us he would suffer and that he would die. Did any of us believe what he was telling us? How could this be? The cross. Who would want to kill him? He healed so many. People followed him, all clamoring after him, begging him to heal. And now this. He has taught us so much. How can this be? How can this be true? It had been a long night. The room had been prepared for us before we arrived, one, then another, and then two at a time. There was the usual food and wine and bread waiting for us. There was some conversation amongst us until he began to speak. And we all settled down and grew quiet as he spoke. Did we understand what he was telling us? Then he got up and he washed our feet. Our teacher, our friend, our leader, he knelt in front of each of us and washed our feet. What was it he said? We are to be servants? Servants of what? Standing at the foot of the cross, Servants to whom? To what purpose? Can there be a purpose? A reason? He asked us to join him in the garden. We followed him there. How many of us on the way there wondered what he meant about betrayal? Who would do that? Once there, our eyes were all heavy. Heavy from the meal and the conversation, and the night was growing late. And we fell asleep, even though he asked us to stay awake to be with him. Standing at the foot of the cross, why did we not stay awake? Those were his last hours with us, and we slept. Then it was all chaotic. There were soldiers everywhere, and they came and they took him away, and we all ran. We ran. Peter told us later what happened. He followed them hidden in the crowd. He was in tears when he told us that when he asked if he knew him, he denied him 3 times. He told us he heard the cock crow, and he wept. Standing at the foot of the cross, yes, most of us ran away. Most of us abandoned him. We were afraid of what could happen to us. Some of us heard the story of what happened after he was taken to the governor. And some stayed hidden in the crowds, walking at the edges through the marketplace. They could see he was in pain. They had beaten him and pressed a crown of thorns on his head. The thorns pierced his flesh. Drops of blood streamed down his face. A woman in the crowd wiped his face with her cloth, clearing his eyes. A stranger was carrying his cross as he stumbled his way. And you could see the hill where they took him, the one just outside the city. And there were uprights waiting there, crowds of people all around. 2 men were already hanging there. You could hear the echo of the nails as they hammered into him. The crowd mocked him as they lifted his body to hang him on the crossbeam. Some heard his words, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Our hearts are broken. We were not there with him. Afraid. We were all so afraid. It is painful to watch a loved one die. Any death, let alone this sort of death. Standing there at the foot of the cross, he forgave us. He forgave us. Father, forgive them, that they do not know what they are doing. What will we do now? Standing at the foot of the cross, women were weeping and wailing. He says to the 2 that were standing below him, "Woman, this is your son. Here is your mother." He said, "It is finished." And he breathed his last. They took him down from the cross, and they placed him in his mother's arms. And then they carried him away to put him in a tomb. Standing now, tonight, at the foot of the cross, it can be so easy to move far away, to go as fast as possible from this moment, away from all the implications